Hello and welcome, my blue monster leaves. Does Arlo have blue balls? That's a question probably not answered in this video when Nintendo refuses to slow down. So let's get right into it and see what he has to say.
This video was brought to you by Squarespace.
Okay.
Pocket Sand. Tell me if this makes sense to you. I'm gonna describe a scenario, and you tell me if it sounds reasonable. Okay, so you're a big video game publisher. You're a real big one, and you just launched a new system. You launch with
Publisher. Well, Nintendo is also a publisher. But I would say developers would launch systems. But, oh yeah. Why is that rock behind him looking like a penis? After I made the blue balls joke. Arlo, do you want to tell us something here?
with a good handful of games, maybe like one or two really big system-selling titles. And then after that point, the first year is a little bit slow. It takes time to build up that library, to produce games for a brand new system. Then the first holiday comes along and you've got some really big system-selling title for it. And then after that point, things really ramp up. A couple years into the system's life, you hit this peak. And it maintains that peak for a good few years. You're pumping out games like crazy. People are buying the system in droves. And then in the last few years of the system's life, you slow down quite a lot. Your evergreen titles are still selling really, really well. Third parties, just like all...
He's describing the Nintendo Switch, basically. The first year was not that big. It had some huge, heavy hitters, but not many. And then, oh boy, it basically was shovelware without being shovelware. Well, there's enough shovelware on Switch, but they released a lot.
All by themselves are making you loads and loads of money. You can basically just sit back, do nothing, and still rake in just millions and trillions of billions of dollars. And you're also making games for the next system. You're putting most of your development resources into that, into later. So you slow down. You slow down a whole lot. You really don't need to be releasing very much on this system. It's not something that is required at this point. To me, that all makes sense. I'd say the logic is pretty sound, and that is an attitude that Nintendo absolutely could have adopted with the Switch. Like nobody would blame them for taking that approach. And yet, Nintendo's output of Switch games has been consistent from the beginning.
Yeah, the Switch 2 will probably release next year. I am still believing in March, but they just release and release and release stuff. They really do not slow down. Okay, I'm glad I get these games, but so give me some time to be excited about the new system.
All the way until now, 7.5 years later. And sure, some years have just naturally been better than others. Although a lot of that really just kind of, my impressions of certain years, it often just comes down to recency bias. I remember thinking that 2018 really wasn't that great compared to 2017, but then you look at it and it was still Smash, Kirby Star Allies, Super Mario Party, Xenoblade 2 DLC, which was basically a whole new game. It was...
Yeah, the Xenoblade 2 DLC was crazy. But the Xenoblade 3 DLC also was really good. Though I think there are still unanswered questions. I'm hoping we get a Xenoblade 4 soon. On the new system, in 4K. Imagine Xenoblade in 4K. OMG!
Still not a bad year by any means. Yeah, maybe compared to a lot of the other years, it was a little bit on the lower side, but even that was really not bad at all. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see the big picture. But however you look at it, for the most part, Nintendo has been bringing the games with Switch. They have been bringing the games, and they simply have not stopped bringing the games. And to gain even more perspective in preparation for this video, I went back...
And I must say, Super Mario Bros. Wonder was such a masterpiece. I, for a couple of years, was really done with 2D Marios. Yeah, sure, a 2D Mario is always fun, because being fun is in its DNA. Even the bad ones are still fun, jumping around and stuff, but I was just missing something, and I did not like that new Super Mario Bros. 3D style at all, which they put on everything, which sucked. Like the classic style here. Look at this. Look at this. This is awesome. And then Wonder came around, and I was like, oh, this looks different. This is doing something fresh. It's still just a platformer, but it's doing something new. And I don't mean new power-ups or anything. It does something more creative, and I was so hooked. That game was so great.
Over a list of all of the Nintendo published games, like year by year by year. And it's made me realize that Nintendo has always been good at putting out a large number of games. Like this idea of them publishing just title after title after title, that is not necessarily new. They've always had a lot on their schedule. But right now, I would say that two things are different. One, Nintendo's output feels a lot more impressive because it's more focused. Back when Nintendo was always supporting both a home console and a handheld at any given time, it was the Switch and the 3DS, or it was the Wii U and the 3DS, etc. Their titles were naturally spread out more evenly. And like in the early days of the Switch, they were still pretty split. Output was still really good, but the 3DS was still getting titles, and when Nintendo stopped doing that, like you can kind of see at about the halfway point of the Switch's life, that's where that merging of the divisions started to really pay off. Like we could really see it in their output. Suddenly it became just a flood of games just for the one platform, which, you know, left.
I really need to get back into Detective Pikachu. It's an interesting game, but the problem is it's really just walk from A to B. It's not giving you much puzzle solving. And while I'm intrigued in the story, it's always like I kind of stopped because I was at that jail thing where it really was like, go there, and then stuff happens. Go there. Like, you don't get to do anything besides walking. This is basically a show where you just have to walk from episode to episode. Yeah, that could have been more.
Owners of that platform inundated with releases. But that's an element that we've all discussed endlessly. So I would say that the second big reason why the output feels so crazy now is that I believe Nintendo is just doing a better job of focusing on titles that people really want to see. Nobody move! Until I remind you that this video was brought to you by Squarespace. Even with zero website building knowledge, Squarespace can make building your site a snap. The intuitive builder is incredibly simple to use, especially if you start with a template. Trust me, in no time, you'll have a slick, professional-looking site. My site, Arlo Recommends, was super easy to build, and it's super easy to maintain. Creating content is easy. I can do anything I need to. I can even schedule my posts to go out automatically at a later date and push to social media while they're at it. If I ever want to juice up my site, give it some extra features, Squarespace offers lots of powerful extensions, and my favorite feature is the built-in analytics. I'm a YouTuber. I like staring at numbers. To try out Squarespace for yourself, head to squarespace.com for a free trial.
Talking about numbers, get my number up by clicking like and subscribe. And do so for Arlo as well, of course.
Then when you're ready to launch, head to squarespace.com/Arlo to save 10% off your first website or domain. And now for today's recommendation, Draw Sessions. Bobby Rebholes is a character and concept artist, and his drawing tutorials are very fun, even if you're not into drawing yourself. It's just fun to watch him work and hear about the process. My favorite is his video on the art of character design exploration, where he improvises a bunch of rough ideas and then fleshes one of them out. Super fun. Thanks again to Squarespace. You are now allowed to move again. Looking back at older and older years, and like even during the Wii U days, when it was still like kinda modern Nintendo and they were doing lots of directs, lots and lots of announcements, I remember so often watching some sort of reveal and thinking, my gosh, who cares? Who can possibly care about some of these games? And I get it, like every game has its audience. I totally understand that.
Amiibo Festival is hated too much, honestly. It was enjoyable that one time I played it. Yeah, I only played it one time as well. Oh well.
But I think Nintendo is doing a better job of not going like too niche, too obscure, you know? They're still making a wide spread of games, which is amazing, which is something that all companies should do. Some of the games are humongous AAA platform sellers, and then other ones are more niche, more exact. They're still giving us the niche stuff, but it
Oh, so looking forward to Brothership. That game looks gorgeous.
feels a little less niche to me. It feels like they're just doing a better job of just making stuff that more people are interested in. They're striking a better balance. Nowadays, it's easier for me to look at the release schedule, and even if there are like a lot of games that I don't personally care about, I can still appreciate the value that these games are adding to the system. There have been Nintendo eras where it really felt like they were putting out loads and loads of just honest to goodness filler. It just felt like filler. But it doesn't quite feel that way anymore. Instead, now it just feels like we have a system that's just getting an impossible number of releases. Like, notable releases. Right now, we are at the end of the Switch's life. Nintendo will continue to support it, but the next system will probably release within the first half of next year. This right here, right now, these moments that we are living, this is Nintendo's opportunity.
Is that a knitted nuke stress ball? It's cool.
To slow down. And I think most people expected them to slow down. I mean, I know that I did. Absolutely.
One thing about that also is if you slow down now and people don't buy as many games, they have more money to spend on the new system. Huh? And that's what you want, right?
Absolutely. Like going into the June Direct, expectations were quite low. I would say almost historically low. The second half of the final year of the Switch's life? Like, what could Nintendo possibly have for us? But what did we get? Reveal after reveal.
Though, we gotta remember that a lot of games were postponed due to Corona. The virus, the big C. Maybe this is still impacted by that. Like, we got those games eventually, but others got put back, and now we get all those. And technically, this all should have happened last year, but it didn't due to that. Maybe, just a big maybe, that might be the case.
After reveal. And all of these games, Switch games. No mention of the next system at all, and almost everything releasing within months of being announced. In one fell swoop, 2024, which had every right to be a breather year for Nintendo, became just another year for Switch. Just another year of constant releases. And don't get me wrong, Nintendo is slowing down in a sense. Like, of course they are. As we've pointed out endlessly, there are a lot more re-releases and smaller, more niche projects this year. Sure, it is clear that they are putting most of their development horsepower into Switch too. But like, even if there are fewer huge system-selling titles, they are still making sure that there is always something to play. A notable release every month or so. Always something coming out. Always something to look forward to talk about. They are slowing down, but they could have slowed down so much more.
Yeah, they're not touching the brake. They just stopped touching the gas pedal. But they're still going.
Than they have. But no, from the very beginning of the Switch's life, they have wanted that output to be consistent. And that's what so many systems throughout the course of history, both Nintendo systems and non-Nintendo systems, that's what they often lack. Consistency. And even if most of the titles coming out this year are like fairly niche, Echoes of Wisdom could actually be a pretty big deal. I mean, like, Zelda tends to sell really well. This one shares a lot of DNA with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, so it's got that going for it. It gives it that kind of very broad appeal. And then even without that appeal, the Link's Awakening remake sold really, really well. So this could still be a pretty big title. Then a big new Mario Party coming. Like, Mario Party's not a thing that I'm super into, and it feels a bit like an inevitability, which like kind of...
I am happy about this Mario Party title, looking forward to play it. I will also stream it. Check out my stream, my Twitch there. Because I did not like that you all move at the same time. That sucked. But this is not doing that. And I like that.
That brings down the hype for me. But I can't deny how important this title is. These games sell like crazy, and this one looks like the biggest, coolest Mario Party ever. So that is also a very big deal. And we've been getting games consistently. Even like late last year, I would still consider that period of time to be late in the Switch's life. Some companies might have considered that like a cutoff point. You know, anything you're developing that's like really big this late in the game, nah, wait and release it on the next system, or maybe like, you know, cross-gen, but at least like...
Yes, but what if they have something even bigger in store and we just are not seeing it coming?
The same time.
Like the next 3D Mario or something, Mario Odyssey, where you get like a katana wielding Mario. That's, well, that's probably not something that would happen, but you know what I mean, right?
But nah, Nintendo, even this late in the game, they gave us a brand new 2D Mario, the kind of game that does sell systems. And then, of course, you've got Metroid Prime 4 coming next year. Huge game. Clearly a very, very high-budget AAA game. And again, they could have saved it. They could have just made it a Switch 2 title, or at least made it a big cross-gen thing. They didn't have to dedicate it to the Switch. They didn't have to, but they did, because the Switch is still getting games. It's still deserving of games. It don't matter what the clock says. This party keeps going until we say it's over. The Switch will still be getting notable releases all the way until the very, very end, and likely even beyond. And all this to say, it's getting really hard to keep up. Like, I get it, you know, modern gamer problems. There's too much to play these days. Nearly everybody has a backlog that's just out of control, spiraling, growing by the day. In this modern gaming landscape, you've got zillions of different companies all...
You do not have a backlog if you don't look at it.
Competing to make bigger and better and longer, more amazing games, and then the indie scene just exploding. Absolutely more games than any person can ever play in their whole life. Already got way too many games, but then even on top of that, you've got Nintendo just trucking along, never missing a beat, just game after game after game after game. What are we supposed to do? And then, like, as a game reviewer, no, just like, forget about it, man. Just like, forget about it. I still need to catch up on my Mario and Zelda and Pikmin reviews from last year. And then, okay, I managed to do one for Princess Peach Showtime. Okay, great. Good job, Arlo. Now Thousand Year Door and Luigi's Mansion 2 have come and gone. Missed my chance to review those. And then in a couple months, it's gonna be Echoes of Wisdom and Mario and Luigi. What am I supposed to do? And we're looking at all these games coming this year, just another year for Switch, and it's kind of easy to forget. Switch 2 comes next year, and that doesn't just mean a new system. If the Switch 2's launch is anything like the Switch's launch, we are about to be attacked by game reveals. We are about to be assaulted by Nintendo's big new games that they've been working on for years now, because all these games that we're talking about right now, these are leftovers. We're getting the leftovers right now. Soon, it's gonna be time for a whole new feast, a new buffet. We've just cleaned our final plate. We did a great job. There's a big pile of dirty plates on our table. And you know, we're trying to fit in one little soft serve cone, because you gotta. You can't go to the buffet without getting a soft serve at the end. You're really not hungry for it. You really don't know if you can manage it, but you're gonna try anyway. And the machine is like blorping out the ice cream into the cone. And we look up and we see that the staff is starting to come out from the back. they're starting to bring out the dinner stuff. They're bringing out the brisket and the crab, and they've got this look on their face. They're looking at us like, who's hungry? It's
Yeah, but it's really a lot. Like, oh boy. But a lot of things I wanna play, and that's really a problem. Like, oh man. Yeah, I know what kind of problem I have. What luxury to have that problem, but
it's just nuts. I don't know. I guess that's really the whole point of this video, just to look at Nintendo's output and marvel at how crazy it's become. Nintendo went into this generation swinging, just swinging for the fences, and there was always this fear that they might grow complacent in their success, which has happened to them. It's happened to their competition too. It's a thing that happens a lot. But 7.5 years later, with the next system on the horizon, we can just about see it. They seem to be just as hungry as they were back in 2017. And that's what they need. If they want the Switch 2 to be anything close to as successful as the Switch 1, then like they need to stay hungry. Well, thanks for watching. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm suddenly hungry.
I wonder why. Yeah, my wife is preparing food right now, so I will be eating now. And I hope you leave a comment on his and my video as well here, and we'll see each other next time. Until then, bye-bye. By the way, I'm having currywurst with rice.